Good morning, children. Today we are moving on to the application of microbes as biocontrol agents. Microbes as biocontrol agents. So, what is the definition of biocontrol? Biocontrol refers to the controlling of plant diseases and pests using certain biological methods. We know that the pathogens, pests, weeds, all these are the natural enemies of our agriculture, and these can be controlled by the use of chemical pesticides and insecticides. But these chemical pesticides and insecticides, they are harmful and toxic to the animals as well as human beings, as well as they cause pollution to the environment. So nowadays we apply certain microbes as biocides, or the microbes are being used for the controlling of pests and the weeds, especially which attack the crops. Now we can see some examples from different sectors. So we can use insects, bacteria, fungi, all these as biocontrol agents. So first the example is from the insects. Here we have two insects mentioned. One is the ladybird beetle, which is used to get rid of aphids. Aphids are the small insects which feed on the plant sap, juices, etc. So ladybird beetle is an insect which is used to get rid of aphids. And we have dragonflies which are used to get rid of the mosquitoes. So two insects as biocontrol agents. First one is ladybird beetle to get rid of aphids, as well as dragonflies to get rid of the mosquitoes. Now moving on to bacteria as biocontrol agent. Here we have an example, Bacillus thuringiensis. Bacillus thuringiensis is actually an insecticide. It is used to kill insect pests as well as to control the mosquito larvae. So it has two applications. One is to control the insect pest as well as controlling the mosquito larvae. And the next group is fungus or fungi as a biocontrol agent. Here we have the mentioning of trichoderma. Trichoderma is an example of a fungus which can be used as a biocontrol agent. And this trichoderma mainly it is used to control plant diseases which affect the roots, because this fungus is seen in association with the roots of the plants. So trichoderma is used to control plant diseases, especially the fungal diseases which affect the roots, but also it is effective against foliar diseases. Foliar means affecting the leaves. So effective against root diseases as well as foliar diseases. Trichoderma is a biocontrol agent which is effective against root diseases as well as foliar diseases of the plant. Now moving on to a special group of viruses which can be used as biocontrol agent. Here we have baculoviruses. Baculoviruses actually they are also known as nucleopolyhedral virus. Nucleopolyhedrovirus or NPV. Nucleopolyhedrovirus. This baculoviruses, they have some advantages, that is they are species specific. Species specific refers to they are used to kill or control a particular species of insect pest, and they cause no negative impact on the other organisms, especially birds, fishes, animals, etc. So they are mainly used for controlling insects as well as arthropods. So insect pests as well as arthropods are being controlled by the baculoviruses, and since they are species specific, they have no negative impact on the plants, birds, fishes, mammals and other non-target insects. That is the advantage of baculoviruses. Now moving on to the use of microbes in sewage treatment. Now what is sewage? Sewage refers to the liquid waste that is generated from the domestic purposes as well as from industries. So the sewage, before it is disposed into the water bodies, it has to be treated properly. So that is done in the sewage treatment plants. Sewage treatment plants or STPs. So the basic principle in the sewage treatment plant is that water is separated from the waste, while the organic matter is biodegraded or degraded biologically to simple compounds like nitrates, sulfates, carbonates, then other than that methane, etc. So the main purpose of the sewage treatment plant is to separate the water from the organic waste, and this organic matter will be converted to certain simple compounds like nitrates, sulfates, carbonates, etc. Now the application of algal bacterial system in the sewage disposal, that is widely applied nowadays. So here what happens is the algae, as a result of photosynthesis, they give out oxygen, and this oxygen can be used for the degradation of bacterial products, and that is converted into a rich algal biomass, protein rich algal biomass, and the waste water will be treated in integrated ponds so that they are getting purified before their dispersal. Now moving on to the treatment of sewage. Mainly the treatment of sewage happens in two steps. The first one is primary treatment. So what is primary treatment? Primary treatment refers to the physical removal of the particles from the wastewater. Okay, and the next step is secondary or biological treatment. That means after the primary treatment, the effluent that is obtained, that will be passing for the secondary or biological treatment. So the primary treatment involves the physical removal of particles, and this is mainly done by two steps: filtration and sedimentation. Filtration refers to the removal of floating debris from the sewage. Removal of floating debris from the sewage is done by filtration or sequential filtration. And after that, there occurs the sedimentation of soil and small pebbles which are present in it. So after the solids are settled, we call it as a primary sludge. So after the sedimentation process, the settled solids are known as primary sludge. And the supernatant, which is obtained after the settling down of the solids, we call as effluent. So the supernatant or the effluent is again sent for secondary treatment. So the primary effluent is again carried to the next chamber for the secondary treatment. So once more, the primary treatment involves the physical removal of particles from the sewage, and this involves two steps: filtration and sedimentation. In filtration, the floating debris is removed, and in sedimentation, the solids like small pebbles, soil particles, etc. will be settled. And this settled solids we call as primary sludge. And after the primary sludge formation, there occurs this formation of supernatant, which is considered as the effluent, which is again carried for secondary treatment. Now moving on to secondary treatment or biological treatment. We call it as biological treatment because here we employ the algae as well as the bacteria, fungus, all these for the purpose of biological treatment. So here the primary effluent is passing into the aeration tanks, where there occurs a agitation mechanically. So we call it as mechanical agitation. There occurs the mechanical agitation of the primary effluent, and as well as the air is pumped inside, so that there occurs the growth of useful aerobic microbes, especially the microbes include the bacteria and the fungal hyphae. So these bacteria and fungal hyphae or mycelium, they grow in large number, so we call it as flocks. So there occurs flock formation of the bacterial as well as the fungal biomass. And now after this, after the growth of this useful aerobic microbes, they will consume the organic matter present in the sewage and reduce the BOD of the effluent. That means the effluent which has reached the secondary treatment chamber, we call as a primary effluent. So this from the primary effluent, the organic matter will be consumed by the flocs, bacteria or the fungal flocs which are being formed, and they will reduce the BOD of the effluent. BOD refers to biochemical oxygen demand. So BOD is actually a measure of the organic matter present in the water. So when there is more amount of BOD, or if the BOD value is higher, then we can say that water is heavily polluted, or there is heavy microbial pollution in that water, or microbial growth in the water body. So after the consuming of organic matter, the BOD content is reduced and the effluent is again moving to the settling tanks. Now in the settling tank, there occurs the bacterial flocs sedimentation. So the sedimentation of the bacterial flocs happen in the settling tank, and after that the sediment which is formed we call as activated sludge, and this activated sludge again move to the anaerobic sludge digester where the digestion happens, and as a result of the sludge digestion there occurs the production of methane, hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, etc., and that is actually considered as biomass, which is biogas, which is a source of energy. And after the sludge formation, the effluent that remains after the secondary treatment, that is drained into the natural water bodies. So the treated water or the treated effluent is discharged into the natural water bodies. That is about the sewage treatment. Now moving on to the application of microbes as biofertilizers. Now let us see what is a biofertilizer. Definition of a biofertilizer. They are biologically active products of algae, bacteria, fungi, etc., which is mainly used for the purpose of biological nitrogen fixation. So the use of biofertilizers is mainly for biological nitrogen fixation in the plants, and they are the products of algae, fungi, bacteria, etc. Now we have some examples under this. The first one is Rhizobium. We know Rhizobium is a bacteria that lives in the root nodules of leguminous plants. So this is a symbiotic relationship. So the bacteria help in fixing the atmospheric nitrogen as nitrates in the soil. At the same time, the plant or the legume provides the carbohydrates which is prepared by the plant as a result of photosynthesis for the bacteria. And this Rhizobium is able to fix atmospheric nitrogen. So thereby it also increases the fertility of the soil, because the algal biomass or the bacterial mass which remains in the soil can be beneficial for the next crop. Next comes diazotropes. The next category is diazotropes, and in that we have two examples, Azotobacter and Azospirillum. And we can see that by the inoculation of Azotobacter, that means inoculating or injecting it into the crops, certain crops, we can increase the nitrogen fixation. That is around 30 kilogram nitrogen can be fixed from around 1000 kg of organic matter. So Azotobacter and Azospirillum act as nitrogen fixers, and they belong to the group which we call as diazotropes. Next, moving on to the example cyanobacteria. Here we have two examples mentioned, Anabaena and Nostoc. So these cyanobacteria mainly they are being used in the paddy fields for increasing the production of rice, and they have certain advantages. The first one is that the algal biomass accumulates as organic matter. So cyanobacteria, they are also known as blue-green algae, and the examples are Anabaena and Nostoc. So the algal biomass, it actually add to the organic matter present in the soil. Next one is they also help in producing certain growth promoting substances, especially the substances that increase the growth of the rice plants. So stimulate the growth of rice seedlings. Now moving on to the next category of biofertilizers, mycorrhiza. Already we have learned that mycorrhiza is an association of the fungal hyphae with the root of higher plants. So the association of fungal hyphae with the roots of higher plants also is an example of a symbiotic relationship where both are benefited. So the fungal mycelium helps in absorbing water and minerals from the soil. At the same time, the roots of the plants, they provide the food that is prepared for the fungal mycelium. Now moving on to the two types of mycorrhizae. One is ectomycorrhiza and the second one is endomycorrhiza. Ectomycorrhiza refers to the association of fungal hyphae with the roots of higher plants in such a manner that the mycorrhizal part, that is a fungal hyphae, they do not penetrate inside of the root or cortical cells of the root, but they form a dense sheath external to the root surface. So ecto stands for outside. So in ectomycorrhiza, the fungal hyphae form a dense sheath around the roots of higher plants. But in case of endomycorrhizae, the fungal hyphae penetrate the cortical cells of the root and they form association with the inner cortical cells of the root. Now, ectomycorrhiza we can normally see in association with forest trees like pine, oak, eucalyptus, etc. And they have certain uses. One is they protect the roots of the plants from the root infecting pathogens or disease causing agents. Another one is they produce certain growth promoting substances like cytokinins. So these are the two advantages of ectomycorrhiza to the plant. One is the protecting the roots from the root infecting pathogens. Second point is produce growth promoting substances like cytokinins. Now moving on to entomycorrhizae. Entomycorrhiza normally they are seen along with the association of roots in orchids, coffee, cardamom, etc. Now VAM or vesicular arbuscular mycorrhiza. Vesicular arbuscular mycorrhiza or vesicular arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. These are a group of soil fungi, and the examples of VAM include Gigaspora and Glomus. Gigaspora and Glomus are the two dominant fungus which belong to the group vesicular arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. Now they have certain uses. One is they increase the absorption of nutrients, especially of phosphorus and copper, to the plants. Provide resistance to the drought during drought situation. Third one is the root infecting pathogens are being controlled by the Gigaspora as well as the Glomus. So they protect the plants from the root infecting pathogens. Then third uses, they are used in agriculture as well as forestry because they are a group of soil fungi which are helpful in the absorption, increasing the absorption of nutrients as well as providing resistance to the drought and root infecting pathogens.